Hi everyone, Elsie Jensen here. Tonight we are going to make some fried catfish with coleslaw, homemade tartar sauce, honey creamed corn, some home fries, and we're going to bake up a loaf of our sourdough bread. Although this loaf's going to be a little bit crazy because when I was dividing it up between my two loaves, this loaf I did not divide evenly. So this one's going to be a big one. And I knew when I was shaping it up that I had too much in it, but I wasn't about to reshape it. Too much work. It's going to taste the same. It's just going to have a funky little arm on it. But we're going to give this guy a nice score. And just right down. He's going to be huge. So this is probably almost like, I want to say, instead of being like my really big, which is 1.5, it's like a 1 3/4 loaf. Let's get him. But he was popping out, and I could tell when I rolled it up and shaped it, I was like, oh, I don't think this is evenly cut between the two. That means more bread tonight. Okay, let's slide this guy in our Dutch oven. Perfect. Just barely fit. And we're going to go pop this in the oven at 500, if I can put my oven mitts on the right hand, with the lid on. And we're going to let him bake up for 20 minutes at 500. And then we'll take the lid off and bake him for 20 minutes at 450. Slide it in there. And 20 minutes. And I have my Dutch ovens already preheated at 500. They were in there for about 40 or so minutes, so they're nice and toasty hot, because you always want to bake them in a really hot Dutch oven. It just helps kind of seal in that moisture. Okay, while we are having those kind of cook up, we're going to bread our catfish here in just a second, but I'm actually going to just slide this out of the way. We're going to prep our home fries so that when we are ready to bake them up during the second timing, during that last 20 minutes, they will be ready to go in the oven right away. So I've got 2 giant russet potatoes here, which is going to give us a good amount of home fries. So these are probably equal to like 5 potatoes. And I'm just going to take first just the top and bottom slice off each one, because nobody's going to want the skins on all of it. And then we're just going to do kind of not like a fry shape, but like a wedge kind of fry shape, but not a potato wedge. So we're, happy hybrid between the two. I like to call these my chips so that you can have your fish and chips. Okay, let's get these guys. And then we're going to do a little bit of just a Lawrys seasoning, salt season on them, which I think will be delicious. It will match similar to what we're putting on our fish, so they all kind of jive in well together. Okay, get our little ends off. And then we've got about 2 pounds of catfish. And so they were 4 really big catfish fillets. And so what I did is I actually cut them down the middle so that everybody will have a nice big long catfish for them to eat. And then we'll make some coleslaw using purple cabbage and then homemade tartar sauce, because anytime I make homemade or fried fish, I've got to have tartar sauce because it's just so much better than anything you buy. And then we're going to do some creamed corn, a honey creamed corn, because I was trying to think of something, a little different. A lot of times I do like fried fish and slaw, and I was thinking about green beans, but I opted for corn today. Kind of change it up a little bit. Okay. You don't want to slice these potatoes too thin or too thick, but as you can see, just looking at it, how much these 2 potatoes, you might think, oh, 2 potatoes, but look how many fries they're already going to create. It's going to fill up our big sheet, which is a 1.5 baking sheet. So we'll have plenty of home fries. And then, of course, we've got our delicious sourdough baking up. I was deciding I do have I have a pumpkin loaf prepping in there, with some pumpkin puree in it. And I thought about it, but then I was like, I don't know, fish and pumpkin sourdough. I decided to bake. Maybe we'll do that one tomorrow. Okay, we're going to get all of these in our bowl here, and we're going to toss them with some olive oil, flour, onion powder, and Lawrys seasoned salt. And those are going to give these just wonderful flavor to our home fries. So let me grab my flour here. So for this, we're going to need about maybe 2 tablespoons of olive oil. Just give a good drizzle all the way around. They don't need to be drenched in it, but you do want enough to kind of create a lovely little paste with the flour and the spices. We're going to add in about 2 tablespoons of flour. This is going to actually help bind all of those spices on to the potatoes and give it a nice, really wonderful crunch to it. And then we've got our onion powder. The onion powder is going to give a great savory flavor and add to the crunch. We're going to put in about a tablespoon of that. So good shaky. And then Lawrys seasoned salt today, which has great flavor. Has a little bit of paprika in there. We're going to put in about, I want to say like a half a tablespoon or so. Now we're just going to get in with our hands and really just work to coat all of these potatoes up with a seasoned mixture. And you want to make sure they're all coated on there. I might give, since these were pretty big potatoes, just another shake more. I always can tell by the color that they look like when they're got the right coating on it. And you want to make sure none of your potatoes are stuck together because you want that seasoning to get on every single piece. And when we just put in about 2 tablespoons of flour. You don't need enough where you're seeing the flour on it. It's really just to kind of create this sticky paste. Okay, let me grab my big baking sheet over here. So this is my 1.5 sheets, which is it's a pretty good size baking sheet. There we go. And we're going to lay these out. The trick with these is you don't want them to be touching each other or laying on top of each other. It's fine if they've got like one edge or so touching, but you want to get as much potato on the pan as possible. This is going to allow them all to really crisp up nicely. So a really big baking sheet for this. And this is my 1.5 sheets, which takes up the whole width of the oven, which I love because then I can get it to all be on the top on there to get that nice heat. Well, I wouldn't say this on the top because this is going to go under the Dutch oven, but when you're using it, if you're going to bake it without something in there, having it on the top is nice. Okay. Let's get these guys. This is where you're kind of making your fun little, it's like when mosaics as kids and you had to put all the little rocks and stuff together. Okay. Start kind of dumping these guys out and spreading them around. Now, I like to bake mine right on the metal instead of putting parchment paper down because I find that it gives you a much better crispy edge on it. But you can definitely do it on parchment paper if you don't want to deal with the cleanup afterwards, but I think it's a little bit better. Okay. Slide these guys around. And now I just got to find a way to work it in there. But you wouldn't believe that this is just 2 big potatoes. That's why I say you don't need a lot of potato to get a lot out of it when they're so big. We're going to try to get all of these on there. And then I'm just going to set these to the side and we'll have them just ready to pop in the oven.
Good question. What's the coating on the potatoes?
So the coating is olive oil, flour, onion powder, and Lawrys seasoning salt or seasoned salt. Adds just a great flavor to it and makes it get nice and crispy when it cooks up in the oven. Okay. Got these just about perfect. Just a few having to touch, but for the most part, already here. Okay. So we'll pop those in because those will roast up at 450 for the last 20 minutes while that last bit of bread what is it? The bread is baking. Here is our catfish. So we've got about 2 pounds of catfish here. We're going to make our lovely dredge and start breading them so that hopefully this is done and we can start frying them up after the second part. We're going to put in about, I want to say, close to 2 cups of flour here. Just get in there. I've got about 3 eggs because I don't think I'm going to need 4. I think I'm going to be good with 3. And I'm going to grab a fork real because we're going to mix our spices in here. So about 2 cups of flour. And then we're going to add in about, I want to say, a tablespoon of Lawrys seasoned salt. And we're going to add in some Old Bay. This is going to just work really well with the fish. We're going to add in about a tablespoon of that as well. We want it to be well seasoned for this because you don't want a bland fish. And then we're going to add in about a tablespoon of smoked paprika. So this is going to give our fish a really lovely amber kind of fry on it. And then about a tablespoon or so of onion powder. So similar seasoning to our fries. That way everything kind of blends well together. Here we go. And then we're going to give this a good mix with ours. And this is going to be our dredge for our catfish. We are going to add in some seasoned panko breadcrumbs during the second part. But I always like to season up my dredge now and have it nice and ready. Here we go. So give us a good mix for this. Okay, and then we're going to just whisk these eggs up as well. Just want to make sure I don't have any pockets of seasoning in here. Let's start with our eggs. And I think because 3 eggs should get us through this just fine. And then I'm going to just pop our yolks. And then we're going to just kind of give this a quick little whisk to mix the eggs into the egg whites. And then we'll do our dry dredge on our catfish. And then we'll add the panko back in and we'll do our extra crispy dredge, which I love. Now you can always just skip the panko adding and just do double of the regular dredge, but the panko is going to give you that extra crunch, and my kids love the extra crunch. It's not quite as crunchy as KFC's extra crispy. That is like an insane amount of crunch, but halfway there. Okay, let's get these guys dredged. Keep one hand clean. That way we can add in our panko breadcrumbs, but we're going to go through this first time. And we're just going to roll our kind of catfish in here. Again, I opted to do the crazy kind of long catfish strips. I almost was thinking about doing catfish nuggets, but we'll save that for another day. I feel like catfish nuggets and my honey cornbread would be good.
You have a question? Do you ever add cornstarch to your flour?
Yes, but it depends what I'm using my recipe for. So when I do a lot of Asian dishes and I'm frying up the chicken and whatnot for that, I do cornstarch because it's a slightly different crunch on it. But for my fish and my chicken, I really like just the plain flour breading to it with the panko added into it. So it really just kind of depends. And then depending on what fish I use, I either do a breading or I do a batter fried. So if I have cod, which is that really nice, thick, flaky fish, I actually do a batter and kind of coat the fish in a batter. So it just depends. think well, it could have been this week. My time is running together, but we did like a honey sesame chicken, and I did the cornstarch breading on that one. Here we go. I'm gonna have to tell Teddy that these are snakes instead because they're so long. Like, we're having eel. Maybe he'll believe me. There we go. And one last time through this, and then we'll add in our panko.
You have a question? Do you do all the cooking for the big family holidays?
I do for when it's just our family. Yes, I definitely do all the cooking for the big one. I have started taking over Thanksgiving, and cooking most of Thanksgiving dinner. My mom always comes in and helps out a little bit. But I kind of really switched over taking that, and I think goes pretty smooth for it. And then I will say it typically goes between my brother-in-law and I, and we actually kind of team it together over there, just allowing there because he's a really great chef. Like, we did homemade pizzas this past Thanksgiving, and as he was prepping them, I was going down and putting them in the grill. So team effort on there. Okay.
And then on Christmas.
Oh, on Christmas. Yes. So on Christmas, it's just our local family, and I do my smorgasbord, the Yule board for this kind of the Swedish Christmas, and I cook all that, and that is like a 5-course, 7-course. I don't know how many courses, but it's a long, drawn out feast with lots of different courses and meals, and we definitely, I do that. So pretty much, yes, is the answer. But I really enjoy it. Okay, now we've got our panko in there. I've added about 3/4 of a cup. And now we're going to do into the egg. And then we will go into our next mixture. And we're going to kind of coat it all up. And then I just like to press it down and kind of make sure it just sticks on there. Here we go. And we'll get these guys. And now I like to do it in my bowls here, although when they're this long, it's kind of comedic because it doesn't go as easily. But you could always do this on like those little mini baking sheets on there. They actually make dredging pans, but I've always been the person, I'm like, well, you don't need a dredging pan. You've got all the stuff at home. Now I say that, and I also buy totally useless stuff all the time. But I like to say I don't need a dredging pan. Maybe one day I'll get one. Here we go. So we got 2 down. But I will say this method works a lot better than, I feel like, if you lived through the 90s, you lived through the shake and bake era where you just put everything in a bag and you shook it. That's going to give you a really thin breading on your, like anything that you're kind of coating that way. And doing this method is going to give you a lot more crunch. And it's going to stick on a little bit better. So the reason why we do that first dredge and then the egg instead of going egg into the dredge is because that first dredge allows that egg to really bind to it. Otherwise, it can slide right off. And then when you're frying it up, it doesn't stick onto your meat as much. Okay. Just about halfway there. And this is why, again, always keep one hand clean. There we go. And for those of you who missed what we mixed in, our basic seasoning for our fish today is Lawry's seasoned salt and some Old Bay, some smoked paprika, and onion powder. So really, really simple and savory. With catfish, it's definitely I would say catfish is a bit of a gamier fish. And so I kind of like to let that shine a little bit in it. Okay. Get these last. I'm hoping to get these all before my timer. Got to race the timer. And then we'll pop our potatoes in the oven to roast up. And then while these are starting to fry up, we'll make our honey butter creamed corn, and our coleslaw and homemade tartar sauce. So we'll all kind of come together in this kind of next half of it. Here we go. I always feel like growing up, and now I never see them anymore, but back in the early 90s, when I was like a little kid, I remember Long John Silvers. Now, I know they're still around. I never see them. And then when we moved south, it was Captain D's. But if you wanted like a fried fish dinner, we never had it really at home. It was you would pick up from either Long John Silvers or Captain D's, which, I haven't had those in ages. Probably still delicious because, I feel like with fried fish, you can't really go wrong with it. And my family was not a fish tender family.
You got a question? Do the kids all like catfish?
They do. The kids all love my fried fish. And I feel like it's because we've always eaten it. I've always made fried fish and whatnot. I don't know if they necessarily know the difference between like when I do tilapia and catfish. So I think, they're like, ooh, breaded fish, and they eat it and they don't complain because I don't think they know there's a difference on there. But, I think with the kids, because I've exposed them at a young age, they all eat it really well. Okay, we've got these guys all breaded up along with my fingers. Let's go kind of take care of this mess a little bit. I'm going to wash up, and then I think we'll be called in just a few seconds. Okay. Get these. It's always a fun because you've got to de-bread your fingers now. There we go. But not bad. Okay. I'm going to start getting our oil to heat up over here because I know we're going to be ushered over there in about any second now. I know it's going to. With my fish, I don't have them submerged. I just like to have a nice kind of thin layer of oil on the bottom of my pan, and then we'll flip it on both sides and fry it up. But I'm going to turn it up on high, let it heat up. Our Dutch oven, or not our Dutch oven, but our oven is calling us. Let me grab my oven mitts too. So we're going to pop our home fries. And again, we kind of toss these with olive oil, flour, onion powder, and Lawry's seasoning salt. I'm going to place these on my bottom bit of my oven here for them to roast up. And then we're going to turn our temperature down to 450. So those will roast up at 450 for about 20 minutes. I'm going to pop it. But we'll take our lid off here and we'll see how it's looking. Look at that magnificent pop. My timer is going to go right there for me. But I told you he was going to be big. He probably was going to burst out of the Dutch oven soon. He's a big boy, I'll tell you that. That was me trying to divide in equal halves. They were not equally divided. Okay, we're going to bring our temperature down to 450. And 20 minutes. There we go. Okay. It's like kids, if they ever have to split something that they love and you break it in half and it's never even. And I'm always interested. I always will offer the kid, be like, which one do you want? And without fail, I always wish that my children would take the smaller one. They do not. They are still self-centered and take the bigger one. But eventually they'll learn when they have children themselves. Okay. Let's get this cleaned up right here. And once my oil is nice and hot, I will know that it's ready to drop my fish in. We do not want to drop our fish in until that oil sizzles with some water. So this is just a little quick clean on our counter. So we just have a little bit of a workspace. Let me grab my stuff for my yummy coleslaw. I feel it. It's still working there. Let's get our butter melting and going for our corn, which I have right over here. I'll start heating this up, and then we'll start making our coleslaw. So we're going to do a honey butter creamed corn. So I'm going to add in about, I want to say maybe a tablespoon of butter, maybe a little bit more. for it. You don't need a whole lot. We are going to be adding in cream, but you do want to have that, rich butter flavor with the corn. For our coleslaw today, we're going to use purple cabbage and we're going to have, yes, and carrots. Well, I said purple cabbage. I got purple cabbage here and carrots. Know what I'm talking about, guys. It's like the day I'm just going to take off because I always have this cabbage last forever, but I always cut off that last little bit. But the other day, what was it? I was making something with, was it yellow squash? And I couldn't stop calling it zucchini 100 times. And I knew it was yellow squash. It was very yellow, but I called it zucchini. I happened to do that a lot. Growing up, I always used to get, mad at my mom because she always called me by one of my siblings' names or the dog's names. We'd go through it. And now, as a mother, I realize that I call all of my children by all the different names and the animal names, and I mix up things all the time. And my kids get on me, and I'm like, oh, I wish they would have cut me a little slack. But I never cut my mom slack either. But it's funny how we go through it, and I'm like, how do you not? You're looking right at me. How do you not know my name? It's not that you don't. You just, the first one comes to mind. There we go. Although I love it now with my mom. Sometimes she'll call my kids like her kids' names, and I'm just like, they're like 50 years apart in age. Okay, we've got our purple cabbage here, and we're going to give this a good thing, but our butter is looking good. Let me swirl this around. Beautiful. I'm going to turn it down. We've got a nice little browned butter here. We're going to add in our honey, and we're going to add in about a tablespoon or two. And we want it to kind of heat up, caramelize a little bit. We're going to add in our corn. So I have got some bit of corn here. It's about not a full bag, but pretty close to it. And I'm going to mix this in. Beautiful. We're going to add in our cream, but first I like it to saute up in the the honey butter first, because I feel like it just gets a little bit of a better flavor than if you try to dilute it all down right away. You want that butter to come out, that the brown butter and the honey flavor to come out. But if you try to throw it all in together at one time, all you're going to get is like a sweetened cream, which is still delicious. But we want all those flavors to come out. And we're going to let this thing, we're going to sprinkle this with a little bit of salt. And I know this is going to drive everyone crazy, not garlic salt. I do not like honey and garlic together that much. So we will use regular salt. And I know. I will say no garlic salt on the menu today. What has gone on with the world? But I will say there are limits to garlic salt. I love it on almost everything. Okay, we're going to let these kind of cook in that thing. And after about a minute or two, we're going to add in some cream for that. I think our oil is hot, but let me get a little drop of water. Yep, definitely hot. We're going to turn it down to about a 5. So you start it nice and high. I always test it with a drop of water because if it doesn't sizzle, it's not going to be hot enough. We're going to drop these fish in. I'm going to grab my big fat ones first. And layer these guys in. Beautiful. And when you fry, make sure you fry. Leave a little space between all of them. You don't want them too crowded. But you see, as you put each one in, the oil level goes up. That's your little like water displacement theory there. But you don't need a whole lot of oil because we'll flip it over and we'll fry it on the other half. And that will give us plenty of crispiness without wasting all of our oil for our catfish. Okay, Let's get these chopped up for our coleslaw. Then we're going to put some carrot ribbons in. We'll make our dressing, and then we'll make our homemade tartar sauce, which, to be honest, is the best thing about having fried fish. Copious amounts of homemade tartar sauce. It's like ranch. It's the ranch for fish. Okay, we're getting this all chopped up. Now, you could also do a shredded where you just kind of, thinly sliced it, but I'd already used a lot of that cabbage. So chopped is best when you just have smaller portions left, or that thicker portion part. But beautiful. Let's add our cream in. I'm going to actually be using half and half, which will actually work well because I can cook it a little bit longer and it will reduce out the milk part of half and half. We're going to start with a good amount, enough to kind of cover it, and then we're going to simmer it, and it's going to reduce away. So we're going to turn it up, and we're going to reduce it. So that's about, I want to say, a third or fourth of half a cup of cream. And my husband's not happy. He's not a big fan of creamed corn. But you know what? This is for the boys and I. The boys and I love creamed corn. And if my husband wants to pick out what he likes, he can learn to cook. But when I'm cooking, like I always say, I get to pick what's for dinner. I'm always happy. And they have a saying, guys. Happy wife, happy life. Okay, let's get our carrot ribbons in here. And then we'll flip our fish in just a second on there, because fish does not take a super long time to cook. It takes much less than chicken because it is a much lighter and kind of airier meat. Okay, we're going to do ribbons in here. I like ribbons in my coleslaw a lot better than like shredded because they're more tender. And I feel like shredded carrots are always, like when you buy them in the bag from the store, they're so dried out. And these are always just so pretty. There we go. So we'll get these all. So we've got our little ribbon first patch here. I do give my ribbons a little bit of a chop so that you're not just eating like carrot spaghetti here. And then you can see I got our cream, or our half and half is already simmering up over there, which is great. That's what you want it to happen because you want it to reduce down and thicken out. Now, if you're using actual cream instead, you will use a lot less, and you'll have to cook it even lower on here. But this is what works beautiful with half and half.
When do you know to flip the fish?
When I start to see kind of a golden edge around the side, which we're just about to flip here. So beautiful. So we've got this nice golden crisp. And with this, because this has a lot of paprika in it from the Old Bay, the smoked paprika, and the, Lawrys seasoned salt, it's going to have a reddish brown. So even as this, when we take it out, it sits, it's going to have a reddish brown. It's not going to be a yellow fry because of all that paprika. But it will add a lovely flavor, and it's going to give you just that really lovely amber fry, which is what is really, if you ever want that really pretty darker colored fry, put your paprika in it because it does give you such a beautiful hue to it. If you do cornstarch, somebody was asking about cornstarch. Cornstarch gives you a very pale fry. Okay, we've got this. And we're going to just literally make a little nest of all of your little carrots here. And we'll just do them a couple chops. Beautiful. And then we'll throw these guys in here, and we'll give all of that a little toss. Let me stir my creamed corn. I'm going to turn it down now that we've got a really good simmer on it. Beautiful. So I've got it down just now on a 2, and as you can see, it's already starting to reduce where we're going to have this thicker kind of creamy gravy base for it.
You have a question? Does your husband cook at all?
No. I will say he has attempted. I don't want that. I want this. And we'll do a baking sheet because I've got a lot of bit of fish here. So I always say, you know, with every marriage, you guys, everybody brings different skill sets. And for my husband, his skill set is he's really great at washing the dishes. And I really enjoy that skill set of his. So I cook and he cleans as far as when the kitchen duties. And I feel like that's a pretty good division. I'm not going to trade any of his cooking for me cleaning. Okay. Beautiful. We've got that there. Let's work on our base for our thing. So I'm going to grab, I need actually these bowls. We're going to make our dressing for our coleslaw and then our dressing for our tartar sauce. So let's check these guys and see how they're frying up.
You have a question? What's in the corn cream sauce?
It is honey, butter, and just half and half, and a little bit of salt. We're going to put our first layer of fish on here. We've got this nice, let's see, I think these three need a little bit more, but that one was perfect. So we'll leave these on for another minute. And here, and a spoon. I need a spoon. I'll grab 2. For our coleslaw dressing. Now, I don't like my coleslaw super sweet. I will put sugar in it, but I don't put as much sugar in as a lot of people do. We're going to put in about, I want to say, like 2/3 of a cup right here. And we're going to put in apple cider vinegar. We're going to want about a half a tablespoon. So I'm going to use about 3 capfuls. Oh, it's going to get me to about a half a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar. You want to use apple cider because it has that sweetness to it, which is really lovely. And then I'm going to put in about 1 to 2 tablespoons of sugar. I don't put very much in for it. I like a little bit of sweetness, but not a lot. So I think I have like 1.5 tablespoons. I find a lot of times people put so much sugar in, it's very sweet. And I love the vegetables to really shine through. And I need a little bit of salt. And did I fill my pepper up? No, we'll just do this. Just a pinch of salt. Give this a little bit of a stir. Let it sit for a second. Let that sugar dissolve with that vinegar in here. You could add in black pepper if you wanted for a little bit of a kick. But this is all you need for a coleslaw dressing. It's super simple.
You have a question? How old are your kids?
So I have 5 kids, and they range from 15 all the way down to almost 2. So 2, because I'll count it. It's going to be in like a week or 2. 4, 10, 13, and 15. So we've got like every developmental age group here. And it's fun and crazy all at the same time. Okay, let's drop our next set of fish in to fry up, but that's our beautiful golden fried catfish. And we'll pop these in here. And the trick with frying to get that really perfect golden brown crunch, we heat our oil up on high to start with, and then we turn it down to about a medium to medium low. Right now I'm frying on not a little bit more than a 4, but not quite a 5. So that it doesn't burn. It cooks up. It gets nice and crispy. It gets a nice golden color without burning, and it cooks everything all the way through. Okay, let's dress up this. And then we are going to make our tartar sauce, which uses a lot of similar ingredients, but has a completely different flavor profile. Okay. Let me grab some tongs to toss this up. And then I'm going to add in just a splash more of cream because it's already reduced almost all the way. I'm using half and half, so not quite cream, but halfway there.
Yo joined and she says she hasn't seen garlic salt yet.
No garlic salt today. I know. We're using Lawrys seasoned salt and pink Himalayan. I know. Call me crazy, but that's what it called for today. Honey butter just doesn't go with garlic. And I really want it. We're doing Old Bay, and so Lawrys seasoned salt matches better with Old Bay spices. I know. Call me crazy, guys. But we did use it earlier today, I believe. What did we have for lunch? I've already forgotten. Oh, we had a salad. I actually don't think we used, oh, we did. We used some in our chicken on our salad. So, might have a rebellion. There we go. So we've got our coleslaw tossed here with our carrot ribbons and our purple cabbage. So I'm going to slide that right down here. You got to let it sit. As it hydrates, it gets more wonderful in flavor. Okay. For our tartar sauce, we're going to need some red onion here. Not very much, but just enough to give you a nice crunch in there and that onion flavor. Slide this right over here. I'm going to mince it up because we don't want super big chunks in our tartar sauce, but you do want it in there. And I will say, red onions are meant for being eaten raw, you know, in the sense in a dip or in a salad or on a sandwich. And so I only ever use my red onions in that way because as you cook them, they tend to lose their flavor and it doesn't hold on as well as the other onions. And they're very mild. They're less astringent. So one onion, just keep it in your fridge. It will last you forever. Here we go. So I've got it up. This is going to be about 1/4 of a cup once it's all said and done. We're going to put this in our bowl. And now we need some pickles. I need, I'll fish this out, 2 pickles, 2 small pickles, or like 2 pickle spears if you have the, the spears in half. And we're going to mince these up as well. And this pickle is, it's got to be a nice kosher dill pickle, no sweet pickles. You know my stance on sweetness. I like it salty. And so got to have the salty pickle on here. Slice these guys up. Dice them up, I should say, not slice them. And then we're going to just mince them over a couple of times, make them nice and small. And guess what? It looks like our sourdough is calling us. So let me get these diced up. And then we're going to head right over there, grab those out. I think our potatoes should be done as well, which is perfect because we are just finishing up our last little bits here. Okay, I do need these bad boys, so let's grab them. Beautiful, as always. Okay, I'm going to slide this guy up here. We'll let it crisp up for the last, few minutes while we finish up. But look at this beautiful loaf. I'm going to steal this trivet. This is gorgeous. I told you he was a fat one.
Fat to unfat system too, I guess.
Oh, thank you. We appreciate that a lot. Look at this guy. He barely fit in our Dutch oven because I wasn't very good at dividing last night.
And do you make your own starter?
I do make my own starter on there for this. This is our beautiful sourdough loaf. Look at our thing. Look at the golden brown crust on it. We have our beautiful little design in our pot. He did not have much room to spread out in here. He is huge. on there, but lovely. So he's our gorgeous. He's going to be delicious. It's a traditional loaf. I do have videos on how you can make your own starter at home as well. It's like a series of 7 videos of feeding it every day, because about day 7, depending on your temperature of your house, you'll be ready to make your first loaf. And then I have videos on how you can make your loaf from beginning to end, as well as a recipe card for that too.
And what's the starter's name?
The starter's name is Gus Gus, because he's in a really big fat jar. And his full name, because he doesn't just have a single name, is Augustus Gustavus. So Gus Gus, because, you know, I've got my Swedish heritage and we just had to have that in there. Very, very important on there. And he just reminds me of the fat mouse from Cinderella. I actually feel like I should make him a little green shirt. I think that would be really cute. I think Gus Gus needs it. So I'll have to whip up my sewing skills. But let's get our delicious tartar sauce made, because this, guys, is where it's at. Let me grab a spoon, because I had one, but it disappeared. He's in the bowl. Okay, we're going to add in about, I'm going to say 2/3, 3/4 of a cup of mayo in there. You could add more or less. And we're going to add in juice from half a lemon. I have to save the other half because my daughter Evie loves eating lemons. Whenever she sees it, I have to put it on her plate for dinner tonight. So we're going to squeeze in our lemon, half a juice of lemon, or a juice of half a lemon. There we go. And then you can use fresh dill or dried. You'll want to use about a teaspoon of fresh dill or half a teaspoon of dried. So, whoop. And gonna mix this up. And then we'll sprinkle in a little bit of salt. And voila, we have delicious homemade tartar sauce. Just a little pinch. Mayo already has a bit of saltiness in it, so you don't need to add a whole lot more. But with that lemon, I feel like and the pickled, you need to add just a smidge more. Super easy, super simple. Tastes way better than anything you can buy at the store. And it's not hard. Okay, let's flip these last 2 right here. Beautiful. Okay, I'm going to go grab my potatoes out of the oven because they're ready. Let me give my corn a good stir. Beautiful. Okay, we've got our home fries finishing up cooking in the oven just to get this final little crisp up off on that top. Beautiful. And you can see they've got these crispy little bubble marks on it, and that's what you get from making that coating of olive oil and flour and the seasoning. It gives you that crispy little flavor, and this whole bottom half, because every piece is resting on the baking sheet, will also be nice and crispy. Not crunchy, but crispy, which is wonderful. Okay, grab a spatula for this, but these again are just wonderful. But here, I'm going to see if I can slide under and show you. See how beautiful, golden brown, and crispy they are. Okay. Just got to get my air. Now, you can always put a parchment paper down, but with the parchment paper, you're not going to get as crispy and chewy. So, yes, it takes a little bit of love to get them off, but they taste better this way. And you don't want to oil your baking sheet either. You want it to be plain on there with it. There we go. And then if you throw them all in a pile, it keeps them it cools them off, but it prevents them from drying out. Okay, let's get ready to serve up our dinner here. I think these 2 middle ones are ready to come off. And then, beautiful, they are. And do this one. The surgery. Beautiful. Okay. But look how long and gorgeous these guys are. Yeah, these other 2 need a minute or 2. but I'm not going to hold you guys for that one. Let me grab a plate here and we can serve up our dinner. Find our nice little area. Okay. We'll do it over here. That way I have a little bit more space. Got to do a little movement around here. Okay, slide that over. Get our fried fish, our coleslaw, and don't forget the tartar sauce. I'm going to turn this guy down nice and low as he finishes up with his final. Okay, for dinner tonight, let me grab a beautiful. We are going to have our hand-breaded and fried catfish. We used Old Bay, paprika, and a little bit of Lawrys seasoning, salt, and onion powder. Press up our homemade coleslaw with a slightly sweetened sauce, and there in purple cabbage and our carrot ribbons. We've got our crispy home fries that we seasoned up with Lawry's seasoned salt, onion powder, and a nice lovely flour kind of coating on them. Our honey butter creamed corn with a mild sweetness from just a little bit of the, honey in there. And then the real star of the show. I know this is crazy, but you've got to have your tartar sauce, a good dollop of tartar sauce, and then of course, we will have a lovely slice of our homemade sourdough bread. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us here. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I try to do live cooking shows every single day, kind of show you what we're making and hopefully teach you guys something along the way. Again, we do upload all of our videos to the link on our page. So if you ever want to recreate any of these recipes at home, you can just go to that link, search for what we made, and you can watch and cook along with us again. We also have a link to our Amazon storefront that has all of our different cooking gear and gadgets in it. So I have my hex-clad pans, my big baking sheets, cutting boards, all the different things I use in my kitchen for you guys to check out in case you're interested in what gadgets and gear we use. But again, thank you so much for joining us here. Don't forget to like and subscribe.